Welcome to Who Are You, the Bobcats you know, the stories you don't. I'm your host, Joel Vanner, inside the podcast studio at Quinnipiac University's School of Communications, and I am joined today by my guest, Okeroghene Rufin. Oki, welcome to the show.
Hi, Joel. Thanks for having me.
I'm sure you could guess by the name of the program what my first question to you is going to be. We know your name, but tell me, who are you?
Yeah. My name is Okeroghene Rufin, but I go by Oki for short. And I am a third-year medical student here at Frank H. Netter School of Medicine in Quinnipiac.
Welcome to the show, third-year medical student. How did medical school come to be for you? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. Well, I didn't necessarily think I wanted to go into medical school. I did know I wanted to go into medicine. And I guess that would start, I really have to think really hard. When did I think I wanted to go into medicine? And I think it goes back to when I was younger. I've lived in different countries, to name a few, Nigeria, the UK, and South Africa, which is where I mainly grew up. And I guess when I was 13 or so, my youngest brother, he fell sick, and I guess that was my first time in a hospital, 13. And it was just a new experience, the hospital, seeing people working in a hospital, trying to help my brother. And that really piqued my interest in medicine. And since then, I've explored different things in medicine.
And your journey to the Netter School of Medicine here at Quinnipiac, you were in the military for some time. Tell me a little bit about the medical aspects that you got involved with the military following that experience with your brother.
Yeah. Well, after high school, I lived in Florida, and I decided to join the military. And I did fortunately join in a medical position as a medical laboratory scientist. And in that role, we kind of have a role in medicine. And honestly, I would like to say we are the heart of the hospital, because the hospital can't run without the lab. So that was my exposure to the military as that role, as well as medicine. And during my time in the military, I would also work in a hospital outside of doing my basic soldier skills. So the hospital would be my job, my 9 to 5. And then outside of that, I would do the rest of the soldiering stuff.
So that experience combined with the experience with your brother, that led you to decide to continue on to medical school after you left the military?
Not exactly. So I did work as a medical laboratory scientist for probably 8 years. So I didn't know instantly that, hey, I wanted to go into medical school. I worked in the lab, specifically in microbiology, and I love microbiology. And most people will tell you they hate it, but I just love it for some reason. And I worked very closely with different team members, so physicians, nurses, and I just felt in the lab I wanted to have more of that direct patient interaction. So I did explore. I explored a lot, and I fell on medical school because I liked the direct patient interaction. I don't know if you've met anybody else who works in the lab. We don't speak to patients, so yeah.
What drew you to Quinnipiac and the Frank H. Netter MD School of Medicine specifically after doing that exploration and kind of finding the area that you wanted to be?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would think mainly geographically. When I joined the military, I wanted to travel. The military said, you can travel in the South. So it took me to Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, and then I did get Washington, but I never really experienced the Northeast. So I think that's where I was looking at schools, and Quinnipiac really stood out because they have a huge veteran community. And one of the first faculty or people that work here that I talked to is Jason Burke. He leads the veterans office, and I don't know, it almost felt like home because I got so familiar with the military when I left the military. Everything outside of that was unfamiliar. But when I was talking to Jason, I had this familiarity come back to me. And I was like, I really like the community here at Quinnipiac. And I thought it was great to be with other veterans. You know, we have that shared experience. And yeah, I really like that.
You found your community right off the bat with
Honestly, yeah,
with
before I
Jason.
even arrived.
Yeah. Are you able to do events with the veteran student group? What kind of events do they have that you've taken part of so
Yeah,
far?
they have veteran events throughout the year. So we'll have like different outreach activities, multiple hikes, multiple like veteran events. So like Memorial Day or even Veterans Day, there's an opportunity to go to the ceremonies. And we also have like a veterans like dinner where I get to meet all the veterans, not just in the medical school, but in the undergrad campus, the law school, and the other graduate programs. And I think it's just a really nice time to delve into that community because I do think that's a huge identity or a huge part of who I am. And the fact that I get to keep that part of me is nothing more that I could ask for.
It's an incredible bridge into where you are now in medical school. So now 3 years into medical school, what have you experienced so far, and how have those experiences helped you narrow in on a particular field that you'd like to specialize in?
Yeah. Well, I would say I've experienced everything. It's a lot.
I think that's the goal too, right?
Yes. Yeah, that is the goal. But I think, honestly, what I liked with Quinnipiac, or what I do like with Quinnipiac, is that you get that community experience early during our first year. So I worked with a physician in a community clinic and saw patients with him. And with my background in pathology, micro, obviously like skin infections and, you know, Lyme disease, how it looks on the skin, it's an infectious disease. All those things fascinate me. And I've been fortunate enough to also gain an experience to work in a dermatology clinic and do research in dermatology as well. And I just think through those interactions that I've had with patients, it really drew me into the field. I think one specific interaction I do remember was with a lady. She came how old was she? I think she was 70, but when she walked in, you wouldn't think she was 70. You would think she's young, or like 50. 50 is young. The first thing I noticed when she walked in was the lesions all over her body. So she had psoriasis. And it's actually quite severe to see psoriasis at that capacity with the medication and treatments available. And the physician that I was working with was able to kind of walk hand in hand to help treat her condition. She was very skeptical of medicine, and, you know, hearing her story, I would understand why she was skeptical. But the fact that the physician was able to sit down with her and really, I wouldn't say change her mind, but really understand why she was skeptical.
Give her a support system.
Yes.
In this, yeah.
And he built that trust with her, you know? And I want to do that. I want to help patients build that trust for them, especially with minorities. There is a huge medical background and skepticism in this history, and I want to help build that trust for them to feel comfortable seeking care.
What are some other things you've been involved in at Netter that have supported what you've been learning in the classroom?
Yeah, so we have a dermatology interest group, and I did serve a role as the president, which allowed me to have the capacity to mentor other students interested in dermatology, as well as recently we hosted a conference here at Quinnipiac where we invited the other schools in Connecticut to come attend. And we talked about skin of color as well as inflammatory skin conditions, especially in skin of color communities. And I do think it was a great opportunity to bridge a gap in medical education, as within our first 2 years of medical school, dermatology is a very small part of our education. And I did think this was a great way to incorporate community medicine in what we see every day as medical students as well, especially with what I saw in the clinic with my physician with the psoriasis.
And you've been able to, in your third year now, mentor Netter students in their first year who are working in our local middle schools on a project. What has been your experience working with them, and what project are they working on right now?
Yeah. So the first year medical Netter students, they're leading a sunscreen protection outreach program where they go to different middle schools to educate the students about skin cancer as well as sun protection, because especially a lot of communities or people of color have this myth that you don't need sunscreen. And I do think reaching out to the children and giving proper education to how, like, for them to protect themselves from the sun is important.
So you've been involved in some mentor and mentee programs during your time here at Netter. Are there any other student involvements that you've been able to become a part of?
Yeah. I've been involved in the SNMA, which is the Student National Medical Association. And one of their missions is to diversify medicine, which is important to me because dermatology is actually one of the least diverse specialties. And it made me take up a role as the vice chair of Diversity Research Committee, where we kind of increase access to research opportunities for minority students.
If you could give a piece of advice to our listeners who may be considering medical school, who may be considering dermatology too, what would you say to them to get them started on the path?
Well, I would say if you're interested in medicine, definitely start. Don't give up. And if someone tells you you can't do it, you can. And I would say definitely finding good mentors. So reaching out. The worst they can say is no. And I don't think no is the worst thing that can happen. So definitely just calling or emailing people in medicine or that you know are physicians or even medical students, just send them an email.
And you never know who you'll meet. Here for you, it was Jason Burke and the connection you made in day one and finding your community.
Yes. And actually, I also mentor veteran students as well. So veterans or current military personnel interested in medicine. I do work with an ambassador program. It's called Service to School, where we help veterans and military personnel not only enter medical school, but law school and whatever school that you want to go into.
That's awesome, building that bridge for them. And thank you for your service and your continued service. And thank you for being a guest on the show today.
Yes, and thank you for having me.
That's a wrap for this episode of Who Are You? If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to find our other ones on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, or wherever else you get your favorite podcasts. Until next time, when I ask my next guest, who are you? I'm Joel Banner. Bye for now.